Hello and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that traveled back in time and successfully thwarted the Franklin Pierce assassination. My name is Cody. Say, who watches the Watchers? You do! In the Watchover crossover pack for the DC Comics deck building game from Cryptozoic. The Watchmen crossover pack for the DC Comic deck building game from Cryptozoic is the fourth crossover pack in this series. I reviewed the other three, and I was very excited to take a look at number 4 because I was the one who really loved the movie. I had never read the comic books, I really didn't know anything about the Watchmen until the movie came out, and I really didn't know what to expect, and I really enjoyed the film. So I was really excited to see these characters appear in the DC Comics deck building game. Now, the previous DC Comics deck-building game crossover packs really didn't change a lot of the mechanics of the game. Maybe they added a few little new rules here and there, but essentially they were just cards that you could replace heroes with, maybe replace villains with, and add a few cards to the lineup. It just kind of added some variety, some sugar and spice, but still fundamentally it remained the same game. Watchmen is a pretty drastic departure mechanically from the other crossover packs and from the base DC Comics deck building game. And I'll tell you why. In this version, you have a hidden traitor mechanic. So I'm not really going to talk too much about the individual cards and what they bring to the game because it's not really relevant outside of this particular mechanic. In fact, I don't know that I'd want to play with any of these cards without playing with a specific hidden traitor mechanic. So let's go ahead and take a look at this new mechanic and see how it works out. Now, first of all, at the beginning of the game, you all get a loyalty card. However many people are playing, one card is dealt out. One of those cards will say that you are the secret mastermind. You are really working against everybody else, whereas everybody else is, of course, working together. Now, of course, here you are playing with the oversized hero cards, playing with Rorschach, Silk Spectre, the Comedian, etc., etc. You're playing with these cards instead of course, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman from the original set. So you play with these specific cards, and they have powers, again, that are relevant and germane to this particular mechanic. But critically, you do not replace the villains deck with Watchmen villains. Rather, what you do instead is you have challenges. And how the challenges work is they're just kind of like villains. They've got a cost. But instead of like a first attack, they just have an event. While that card is in play, certain things happen. There's certain mechanics in the game act differently. And usually it's bad for the players working together to solve it, but they can be bad too for the hidden traitor. So people are generally trying to go ahead and get these done. The traitor, however, not necessarily is, because all the players going around, if they want to defeat that, before they can simply pay the cost, they have to contribute a number of cards, a number of superhero cards, a number of superpower cards, a number of villain cards, etc., etc. They have to contribute certain numbers of those cards before a player can even attempt to take out the actual card there, the main card, and move on from that challenge. There's a challenge 1, a challenge 2, and a challenge 3. And what's going to happen is when you contribute a card, that card's gone. So you can have some really cool cards in your deck, but if you got to take out that card, you have to sacrifice some really cool cards. You don't get to play them. You just contribute them. Boom, they're out of the game. But that gets you one step closer to defeating that particular challenge. Now, also in this game, if you get a turn and you don't buy a card from the lineup, you have to add another card from the lineup. So you can get more and more cards on the table here. This can grow rather quickly. And this is important because the heroes are going to win the game when all 3 challenge cards are completed, and the secret mastermind, he is going to win the game if the main deck runs out. So the more cards that get out there, the better that is for the secret mastermind. Now, at the beginning of the game, each player gets a mastermind plot. If you're a good guy, if you're loyal, the mastermind plot doesn't work. You just slide under your card, you pretend to read it, right? But you slide under your card, you forget about it. It doesn't work for the rest of the game. But if you are the secret mastermind, this can present another challenge to the heroes. There's also a Villainous Machination card that comes out that lists very specific cards that the Mastermind must play on one turn. If he plays all those cards on one turn, he reveals himself as the Mastermind, and then his Mastermind plot card comes out, and that actually goes underneath the existing challenge cards. So it's an additional challenge, and these things are tough. These new challenge cards typically are in the 20 to 25 range, I think, as far as strength, so they're very tough to beat. Now, there are some rules that allow the player trying to beat them to get some random cards from some of the other players, but generally it's very hard to beat. Now, one other thing, if ever the Secret Mastermind reveals himself, then any attack cards you play only attack the Mastermind, and of course his attack the loyal players. So that is basically what Watchmen brings to this new, to the DC Comics deck building game, this new mechanic to the DC Comics deck building game. It's a fairly interesting way to play the game. It really, it does build some tension when you're trying to find out who that secret mastermind is, and it does, I love Hidden Traitor games. Some of my favorite games are Hidden Traitor games. Battlestar Galactica, The Resistance, etc., Shadows over Camelot. And it kind of adds that element here. I don't think the tension ever gets as high in this game as it does in maybe some of those others, but still you have that, okay, who is it? Who is that? Paranoia and the accusations. And that's always a fun part of a Hidden Traitor game, and I like that a lot. Generally speaking, however, I think while I will play this again, because I did have fun with it, my group had fun with it, I was talking to everybody afterward, and they kind of felt the same way I did, and that is, it's not as fun as just the regular DC Comics deck building game. It's the thing that's great about the DC Comics deck building game is just how simple and straightforward it is. And this adds a few layers of complexity. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. And it's a fun thing. But at the end of the day, I just don't know if it's as good as the original game. So I'll tell you this. If you are somebody like me who loves DC Comics games and you love playing with variation every now and then, you love mixing it up, pick this up. You'll have fun with it. You will have fun with it. And at its price point, I think it's worth having if you really like DC Comics deck building game. If you're somebody who just plays DC Comics game casually and you don't really need any bells and whistles, you don't need to pick this one up. That's fine too. I liked it. I didn't love it. But I like it enough to say, I'm going to give it a try before you buy it, but it's a very positive try before you buy it because it is fun. I did like it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and I got to tell you, my favorite thing about the Watchmen movie was Sir Alec Guinness's Rorschach. Oh, you don't understand. I'm not locked up in here with you. You're locked up in here with me.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I've been dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
Probably the nicest face paint that George has ever gotten, and that's saying something.